Hello, Don't Die Rusty Nation. This is Rick Hanson, your host of the Don't Die Rusty podcast, and I'm here with my co-host Ricky Brule as usual.
Hello, how's everybody doing?
And I hope we're doing all right. And then then I hope then I have with us tonight probably I don't know. I think it's between Sierra and your sister.
My sister, Christy, she's a big fan, for sure.
She's a big fan, but we have Sierra Obler with us. And I have to say I'll disclose that she's my niece, but she seems to enjoy our podcast. So we
Yeah.
talked about this the last time uh, when we said we were going to do a recap and we're going to have a guest on, and it was just this worked out.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good because then we can also get a female perspective on how the podcast is rolling, and we'll talk a little bit about some of her favorite episodes and how it's affected her life.
Yeah. So well, why don't you introduce yourself, Sierra?
Well, I like to think I'm Rick's favorite niece out of all of them. I actually never listened to podcasts until you guys put yours out. And
wow.
I was never, I'm like, you know what? I was a teacher. I was like, I am talked to all day long. The last thing I want to do is be talked to some more, but I have started to enjoy it. But
Yeah.
I am married just recently in November. We have
Oh,
a little
excellent.
2.5-year-old boy.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
yeah, he keeps us busy, but right now I'm a just stay-at-home mom and running errands for everyone and everything. So
And she just got her master's in December, and she's going to try to get her. Well, she won't try. She will get her doctorate this fall. She's taking classes.
hmm
Oh my goodness. She doesn't need our podcast. She is certainly not dying rusty. Holy mackerel.
She definitely not dying rusty. She, but she's active. She's positive. She does her own. She has her Obler adventures on Instagram, and she keeps people in the know and shows a don't die rusty mentality, which is that's why she's here. If she was a negative Nelly, she wouldn't be here. But she's here and she's silly Sierra.
that is true.
Silly Sierra.
Yes.
so so Ricky, we'll get into the recap here with Sierra and stuff. But how was your 4th of July?
Yeah, it was pretty good. We were just gonna lay low, which it felt weird. Uh, Susan's got a lot of art shows coming up. Between once hunting season comes up, then I'll have things going on. Leading up to this point in the year, you and I have had a lot of things going on, and so it was like 4th of July. It's like the only weekend that we have where we're not out doing something. So we just thought, you know what, let's just lay low. We'll just kind of go with the flow and see what happens, and it just felt strange just being at home and not being around family, stuff like that. And so kind of on a last minute whim, we went up to her sister's place. It's pretty close. It's not too far of a drive, so we just made a jaunt up there. We were going to just stay one night, and we were having such a good time. We ended up staying a second night. And it was just great. Kids got to spend some time together. We got the kids out on the tube, got on the lake, did some fishing, and just kind of hung out and just relaxed. So yeah, it was pretty nice. How about you, man?
Well, I was going to talk to Sierra because I have an adventure to tell. So, what did you do on the 4th of July, Sierra?
We spent almost a full week out at the river, hanging out, going on the boat, fishing, just laying low, not doing a whole lot.
And that's the Missouri River.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I just thought we better make sure we knew what river it was, but so it's the Missouri River. But
hmm
well, and here's what I wanted to say about our little adventure is the don't die rusty mindset is like go on these adventures, and we loaded up Cindy's vehicle, and we had a tent, we had a cooler, and sleeping bags, and a little this and that, and we jumped in her vehicle. I think it was 5 a.m. and we left here, and we went to the Bighorns, and we got to the Medicine Wheel, and it's the 4th of July, and we got snowed on.
Oh wow.
You know, that's the normal thing, getting snowed on the 4th of July. But and we weren't the first people there, but it was peaceful. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
And the clouds were awesome. I'm going to make a little reel here. I just haven't had time of our adventures. And then we were going to go to Cody, Wyoming, and but this is what I love about Cindy now. She knows me, and we changed our mind, and we went into Bridger and Red Lodge, and we went up and over the Beartooth Pass. And on top of the Beartooth Pass, the mountain goats were out at 10,005, and it was
Nice.
it was cool. It was cool and windy, but it was nice. And we came down and into the bottom, and there was a sow and 3 cub grizzlies.
Oh wow.
And I got some awesome pictures of both, and I'll be posting some here a little later, maybe in a week or when I get them edited anyway. And
I've been waiting to get those from you, but I suppose they're probably on an SD card somewhere, huh?
Well, they are an SD card, and I
Yeah.
want to get them edited in Lightroom, and I haven't.
Yeah.
I've been trying to do a few other things, you know.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And 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 then we went to Gardner. We went into Cook City. There was no place to stay there. We went into Gardner, and we have a tent. So it's not like we're trying to find a hotel, which if you're ever out in that country, take a tent. I mean, this is why we like to do it, because you can do it on the cheap. We had food, we had a tent and sleeping bags, and it was Cindy and her daughter Chloe. And then but we got to Gardner. There was no place to stay, and we tried staying in a teepee. I thought, how much can a teepee cost? Because there's no in Gardner, there was no tent camping available. It's $450 a night to stay in a frickin' teepee.
That's ridiculous.
And so then we ended up heading towards Gardner, and to Livingston, and we stayed there, but we got up early in the morning and left and headed into Yellowstone, and actually we saw, Yellowstone on the 4th of July, I would thought would be had more people, but it wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
And really. And we saw another grizzly and elk and a few other animals, and then we ended up staying in a campground between the Grand Tetons and Yellowstone, and then we got up early in the morning on that it had been on that Saturday, and we went and did the Grand Teton thing and had a wonderful breakfast in Wilson, Wyoming, and then we went into Jackson, and that was the place we wanted to get the heck out of Dodge, because there were so many people in Jackson. I mean, I've been there mostly in the winter. We go out to the elk refuge every once in a while, and which is a wonderful thing to go do.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if Isaac Picks, he's on Instagram, and he's based out of Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down to the store to see if he's around, but he's in Alaska. But I like going in the Wyoming Camera Outfitters anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there waiting because there's a note on the door. I'll be back in 20 minutes, and I'm sitting there waiting. And this is the craziest thing. I'm sitting there. I just looked down at my phone, and all of a sudden there was a crash, and a car hit a motorcycle.
Oh, really?
Really?
What?
And it knocked the bumper off the car. The guy is laying on the ground wailing, and like I said, lucky he had a helmet on. He didn't really hurt the motorcycle as much as you would have thought, but the and then I went in. I mean, paramedics were right. Boom, they were there. And I should have walked down there because after the TAC broken leg incident. I should have seen if it was the same ones that, because the two of them were from Jackson, to see if one of them were there. But anyway, the he just, his neighbor or somebody came and picked up the bike and backed it into this little parking spot, and he said he just bought that bike a week earlier
Oh no.
and paid cash for it, and he was so proud of it. And most of that wailing was because he just he just got smoked by the bike. Anyway, and there are so many people in Jackson. I'm thinking, and it's funny because Cindy went to this farm, and I mean like this little farmer's market, and we met up and said we got to get out of Dodge. There's way too many people. But it was good, and we had a really good time. But what I'm trying to get at is, all it was really gas and a camping spot,
Yeah.
and we didn't have to pay $450 or $500 for a room, and you can go
Yeah.
see some of the, I question myself because we're seeing. I don't know if they're as wild places as they used to be. I mean, Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons you think of as wild, but are they wild with so many people anymore? Or, there's asphalt trails and there's signs. Don't, I'm just wondering because, and I'm not dissing the national park system, but I know that there's a lot of pretty places that aren't filled with people. And I also know that there's some pretty spots that you can go see that aren't in the parks. But all in all, it was a great adventure. And if anybody knows, like Ricky knows, and I think Sierra knows too, like if you get into a vehicle with your significant others, the conversations that you have and the adventures that can happen are well worth the memories. Those are some of the best memories you can have because unless you really make them mad and they want to jump out of the car, you have to stay in the car and have a conversation.
Yeah,
And-
forces it. You got to have it, right? You got to hash it out.
And
Otherwise, it's going to
yeah,
be
and I think
uncomfortable for a long time.
I think Cindy might sometimes want to jump out of the car with, but she doesn't.
See, Troy likes to think he's going to jump out because of my dancing moves, but somehow he stays in.
I know, isn't that crazy how
It
that happens?
is.
But so the worst part of the trip was we're just getting. I mean, we left Jackson, went into DuBois, and we're just getting into the Bighorns, and I spotted this. It was a big Shiras moose, and I'm coming around the car, and Cindy's going around, and I don't have an angle to take this picture of this moose. And Cindy got the picture, and it ran up the hill, and I never got a picture.
Oh no!
And it was a good moose. It was a nice bull moose, but that was my downfall of the whole week because I got good pictures of the grizzlies and I got good pictures of the mountain goats, but I didn't get that moose, so I'm a little sad.
I was wondering where you're going with that. I'm like, what's so bad about coming across that? And then,
Yeah.
so, but
But
you got,
anyway,
you got pictures in your head, right?
I do. Well, Cindy
in
got the
your-
pictures, so I still have them too.
In your head
She can-
movies.
Yeah. So it was good. So life was good. We got to see views and we got to see all kinds of things and enjoy life. That's what we're here about in Don't Die Rusty.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
And all of
Heck
us
yeah, man.
seem like we had a great weekend
Yeah.
Yeah, just keeping it simple.
and being free.
Mm-hmm.
Being free.
So this is our, we said about every 10th episode or so we're going to try to do a recap, and then like I said the last time, we're going to try to bring in a guest to maybe help us recap because maybe some people, Ricky and I did the conversations and I like to recap them anyway, but to have a different perspective of Sierra be on here as a female too, because we're trying to get more female Don't Die Rusty attitudes, and I mean we've had a few females on, but it'd be if anybody out there is listening and has a great story, please let us know. But let's get into this. How about that?
I'm ready.
Yeah. I just wanted to talk a little bit about that too, and we've talked to some of the ladies off the recording about this, and so there's a list of people we want to talk to, but it's hard because we can reach out to men on social media and they maybe don't feel as threatened, and so they're like, hey, yeah, great, they'll start up a conversation, but when it's difficult to strike up that conversation on social media, with the ladies, because it just, I just assume they probably are like, oh, what, maybe they think we want something different. I don't know, you know what I mean? But it's like literally we just want to have a conversation. And so we're trying to strike up these conversations through other mutual people that we know and getting recommendations in that respect. And so we just want to be respectful and try to do it the right way. So yeah, hopefully. So for any of the ladies out there, if you're listening to this, if we reach out, we legitimately just want to have a conversation with you on a podcast. So.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I remember that conversation and who we had that conversation with, and
Yeah.
and that is very true because it's easy for me to message a male, but I'm actually leaning on some of my female friends to get in touch with that friend that they know because we don't want to feel like we're just creepers,
Yeah.
Women
Yeah.
are hard too. You guys might say something and we're overthinking it, and we're 7 steps deeper than what you guys even thought about, and it's why.
And you're probably right there because I don't know. There's a meme out there. I'm on this. I don't know. It was a meme out there about this girl. It was a little real, I should say. This girl pretended she was asleep in camp. The girls that she was with wanted to keep hiking, and their boyfriends came back to camp because they wanted to come back to camp. And she pretended that she was sleeping, and they were wondering. So the other girls, she told the girls what the guys were talking about, and in camp,
Mm-hmm.
and because they wanted to know about the deep, dark conversations that guys have in camp. And it was 45 minutes of how you take a poop in the woods. Like some people wanted to be by a tree, and some people did it. And she said it wasn't as deep as we think it is.
Nope, it never is.
Yeah, it's totally true. Like when I was up, over the 4th of July, I was hanging out with, my brother-in-law and then his 2 brothers, and the conversation was just very, pretty much just basic, talking about being in high school and getting into fights, like for an hour. That's what we talked about. The glory days is all we talked about the entire time. So
Yeah,
yeah.
So yeah, so anyway, if there's, like Ricky said, we would love to have more female perspectives of Don't Die Rusty, and we're reaching out to people. Like I said, we're leaning on a few of the females we know, and hopefully we can get some more female perspective. But we have Sierra with us today, and she's going to help us recap some of the things, some of the episodes we've done, and see what she likes and some of her perspectives of this. So let's get into this, and I'm going to say, what are in the last 10 episodes? I don't even know if we need to go 10. I mean, we can do the whole thing. What are some of your favorite episodes?
Well, I can't choose a favorite because I was telling Rick earlier, there's so much from each episode. Like, you can take something out of every episode and go further with it and say, okay, this is what I learned from this, and this is what I'm going to take away from it today. And so there's something in all of them. Yeah, I think it's interesting for me to listen to when you guys talk about hunting, living in a family where my dad and my brother and my uncle and now my husband are all hunting like educators. I swear they know everything about it. I listen to it and it's like, I didn't know that and I didn't know that this happened, which I'm not an avid hunter, but it's always interesting even from that perspective to then be like, okay, I understand what you're talking about in that aspect. And then you listen to even when you guys were at the Total Archery Challenge, like you guys are not just hunting, you're doing things and you're making memories and learning life lessons. And then there's other episodes where it's like it's all one big lesson about how to live life and how we all just need to be better and do better than we did the day before. So I don't know if I can choose one or even two or three. I just think the people that you guys have had on all have that mindset of they want to be a better human. They want to live their life. They don't want to sit around not doing anything. They want to make the world a better place in their own way, but it's unique in how they do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's and I like that, because we went on our walk, and she just listened to the Kyle Craft episode on the way out here to do this, and which was interesting to me because I thought, I don't know if it would touch females in any way or not. I mean, we're talking about Baja racing and this and that, but Sierra told me that it was nice to do somebody that was in her age group, and then how he's achieved his goals, and sometimes we have the conversation, and I I take, because that one I like that he did that, but maybe I look past that and I was looking at more like we talked about the relationships. And so I look at the relationship part and not so much that young part of reaching those goals. And it makes me happy that you saw something even in that one, that I wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah, even like when he was talking about trucks, like in my mind, coming from the small town, a truck is not the same truck he was talking about. So
I know.
from that part, I was like, oh, I don't know what's going on. But the fact that he's, 28 and has achieved all those goals. And then it got me thinking, when I'm 27, I'll already have my doctorate. So what in the world do I do next? And so we have all these goals and we want to say we want to achieve these things. But even at this young of an age, like 10 years from now, is it really what we're going to end up achieving? And is it really what we had planned on doing? So that's where, with that episode, I really got to thinking, I'm like, I don't know. Like, it didn't make me doubt my goals, but kind of made me think, okay, are these realistic? And are they something that I really want to chase after? Or is this just a period in my life where that's what I want to do?
Mm-hmm. It's really cool to hear that, that side of things, coming from you, because, I always get feedback from my wife too. She listens to every episode, and it's good to get the perspectives from different age groups. And I wouldn't have suspected or thought that would be a takeaway. And I think it's fantastic. That's the beauty of this whole thing. This is why we're having this conversation with you, because we want to know. People aren't real inclined to give us a ton of feedback. It's just, this is pretty natural, you know what I mean? But you've put yourself out there. You've shared some of our episodes and stuff like that, and we really appreciate that. And to me, that speaks volumes. If you're taking time out of your day to say, hey, y'all got to go listen to this. This is great. Or this, there's a part of this episode that really touched me, and you really got to go and listen. And so I love that we get these different perspectives on how these episodes can impact somebody as, a female of your age. And the episode is about, mainly about, trophy truck racing at super high speeds and peeing in a bag. You know what I mean? But you got a really great perspective from it. And I just love that. And then, you know what I mean? Like talking about 32-inch suspension and all this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Maybe that stuff, you maybe you do take to that, and you're like, oh, you can pull out the facts on your husband one of these days and be like, well, little known fact, you can Cliff Clavin your husband, which I just dated myself on that. You
You
probably have
just
no
did.
idea
I
who
was
Cliff
like,
Clavin is.
Nope,
but
I don't.
now that makes me feel old right there.
Yep.
I know.
So for those folks that are listening to this that don't know who Cliff Clavin is, he was a postal worker that spent time in a bar on a TV show called Cheers, and he was always the guy that would chime in. He was in the background. He'd be listening to somebody's conversation. He'd always chime in and go, well, there, Nami, little known fact. And he had a kind of a Boston accent, so he'd throw in his 2 cents. But
that really
anyway,
that makes me feel old.
that's what that means. And the reason that immediately came to mind is because I do that to my wife all the time, and we laugh about it all the time. Like, I'm the logistical one, and I'll always be like, well, did you know, and then give her some random fact about how, a mosquito has a proboscis, and that's what it uses to suck your blood, stupid stuff like that.
Yeah.
We all have a proboscis right here.
Yes, we
little
do.
Little known fact.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So, but
sorry, the fletchings just fell off the arrow, and we went.
They just
left.
did.
Yeah.
We did. So what other episodes have affected you?
The ones where you talk to the couples. So, like I said, we just got married in November. So a lot of people say we're in the honeymoon phase. I think it really, listening to the couples talk about each other, and when you guys bring up your wives and the independent wives, like somehow, some way, there's always that reminder that you're going through life with someone else, and so you might as well make it be your best friend. And it's like, it really makes me realize and be reminded, Troy's my best friend, and what are we doing with life, and how he says it all the time. It's a we thing, not a me thing. And so it's not one of us going after a challenge. It's both of us. And how do we get through this? And listening how other couples have overcome huge challenges in their lives, and they stick together. And even if their husband doesn't always want them to show up, or their wife doesn't always want them to show up, they're still going to be stubborn, and they're going to show up, and they're going to love you more each day. And it's a great reminder that what you do every single day affects your relationship in some way with people. But if you're able to do it in a positive and ongoing way, that relationship is bound to just get even stronger and stronger, and it's not going to break apart over a little life challenge that 5 years down the road you're not even going to remember. So hearing about the couples and how they've overcome things, and they're living life, and they're doing all kinds of crazy things, it's like, we're a newly married couple, and there's so much more to life than just going to work and coming home. And so.
Yeah, because like John and Jules, Jules is a spunky woman, and she's probably, one of the highlights of independence that you would ever meet, if you would ever meet her in person. And she's just like you, a tiny little thing, but she is spunky, and she is full of energy, and she just tells it how it is.
I would love that. We'd become very good friends.
I first had the opportunity to meet her, a couple weeks ago at the Total Archery Challenge, and it was like, she's like an auntie that I've known for years. You know what I mean? Like, she just like so kind, and just the conversation. And when I saw her the next day, sometimes there's like hustle and bustle, and everybody's kind of doing things, and you're distracted with conversation. And I just happened to be walking by. I didn't want to interrupt her conversation. She like went out of her way to give me a tap on the shoulder as I walked by, just little things like that. Yeah, she's just a great person. Super cool.
And their story is awesome. How many people get together and then a volcano goes off? You might have known that there was energy there or something, But
right.
It's that's cool, and then you get into the strong I if you will never meet a nicer person than Dara when we
Hmm.
talk to Tommy and Dara, because Dara is she is she is the most wonderful person. And can you imagine being 18 and adopting 4 kids?
No. Like that, to me, as a mom, I would love any kid that came into my house, but four at that age, and to just open your heart is just crazy. But even listening to her talk, like she just sounds like the most humble person.
She is, and
Yeah.
she. I mean, I hope someday we can get her back on, and because I want to chat with her. Dara has affected me more than she'll ever know. I mean, all of our episodes that Ricky and I do, we are affected by the people that we talk to. I mean, you get to listen to this conversation that we have, but some of them we go into maybe 10, 15 minutes early and chat, but some of them we know have known for a long time, so we have this depth. But every one of them has either steered me in a direction that makes me better or makes me think of why didn't I think of that? But the Tommy and Dara one though, that one struck me because she is just a strong woman to know. And I think, I mean, this is what I'd like to talk to Tommy and Dara about again, and I'd like to ask because I think she knew Tommy since second grade, and and I think that helps you know who that person was then and who they can be. You've watched them grow up. So, but the strength that she had with Tommy in that situation, I mean, sometimes people might think this is, I don't know, arrogant. I don't think it's arrogance, but I think it's, I sometimes re-listen to these even though I've listened to them 10 times or so. Some of our episodes, when you need to get kicked in the butt because you're having a crappy day, and those I feel lucky that I've had these conversations, and maybe that's why they they sit with me in a different way. But when you're having a crappy day and you know which one you want to listen to, and it picks you up. That's why we do this stuff. So,
Hmm.
but I'm happy, you know, um, I'm happy that you're affected by some of these. So,
Yeah. The the episode with Tommy and Dara, like, and I just think about, I know that Tommy wouldn't want to be treated any differently than anybody else, right? But to go back and listen to that and then think about like the challenges, right, of relationships are hard and the challenges that come with them, right? And then you think about the physical obstacles that they have to deal with in addition, and it makes you really go, "Oh wow, yeah." You know what I mean? Like, we got this. We'll figure this out. You know.
in for if you don't, you're talking about the couples and the close relationships. Um, but if she didn't have the belief and the trust in the that he was going to become a better person, she had so many ways out. I mean, to be honest, I mean, humans are a lot of humans are superficial.
Mhm.
And to be honest, I mean, and Tommy would say it too. He has no legs, he has a thumb, and he was on drugs,
Mm-hmm.
in jail. If anybody can pull a plug because of anything, he could have Dara stuck and believed, and it's just that story just hits me hard every time.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and and another one. There's two more in this 10. If we're gonna do the second, the few. I mean, Sloane's.
Mm-hmm.
If did you watch the video at all?
I think so. I think I've watched and listened to all of it.
Because Sloane's saving grace and to have questions about God,
Mm-hmm.
and to go into Sloan's and to know. I mean, Ricky and I are lucky enough to know Sloan before we interviewed him, so we have a leg up here. We'll just say, but kind of knowing him as a person and knowing how good he is. But we found out more stuff because like Ricky just said earlier, the we're probably down to one vein on our arrow right now of the directions we go, but we learned a lot more about Sloan, and if anybody has those thoughts of that they can't overcome things, Sloan's a great example.
He is, and he gives you that reminder that, you know, I'm a firm believer that God has a plan and he's going to figure it out for you. And before you even begin something, that you're going to be set up for success. It might not seem that way right now. It might seem like you are just going through it and you are in the deepest of depths. But then you listen to a video and a podcast like that and it's like, okay, I'm here now, but if I'm this deep, how high can I get? And when, it might be a month from now, it might be 10 years from now that you're at that highest point. But to continue to work towards that and hear that someone else is working just as hard to get to that peak and to see the view of what all happened and what they went through to get there is just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, that episode completely derailed me. In a very good way. I just, to your point, Rick, I thought I knew who Sloan Brown was, but again, the interaction that I had was mostly business related, but still, just knowing the people that he knows and the good things that others have said about him, and then to have that conversation and to come to the realization that he had really given himself up only within, what was it, like, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like the last 8 months or something like that. It was
Yeah,
fairly recent.
It was fairly recent.
Yeah, and so I was just like, and that was shocking to me. And I mean, not shocking that it happened, but just I was not expecting that to come out in that conversation. And again, I'm such a true believer of people come into your life for a reason at the right times. You know what I mean? And for us to have that conversation in that moment, just like you were saying before, how these episodes come around and how they affect us and how they impact us, we hope that it will do the same for our listeners as well.
Yeah, that's a funny one because it's a real funny one in the aspect we were talking about the stupid things guys talk about. But then we talked to Sloan, and they're sitting around a campfire, and the guys that are with are saying, "How come you don't believe?" And in Christ and in this and that, and they have this long discussion, and so we do get deep. We talk more about we talk deeper than what we were talking about earlier, but um, then to get baptized in a Yeti 350 cooler, I think it was.
Yeah.
You know, to I mean, I was lucky and got to hang out with Sloan just a little bit up at Big Sky, and when I went to Total Archer Challenge after this conversation, and we had and just didn't see and know and ask. I talked to him a little bit about our conversation, and he is the strength you see in him is amazing, and I appreciate that, and I'm reading the book uh, the ruthless elimination of hurry, and I suggest anybody out there to read that book because it is faith based, but it is also showing what we're doing in America or in our society too. So
That's the next one on my list after the Book of Joy.
And I hope you're enjoying that one too.
Yeah, so far it's been super good. We haven't had time to like. So me and my wife are reading this book together, the Book of Joy, and it's about a conversation between the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And yeah, so we like to read a certain amount and then get together and then we kind of discuss, what our thoughts are and everything. And it's been going on a couple weeks now that we haven't even had a chance to like connect and talk about that yet. So we haven't gone much further into it yet. But so far, from what I've read, it's absolutely amazing. It's such a cool book.
And I'm glad that you're reading it and I've read it, because also for Don't Die Rusty, you know, it shows a Buddhist perspective and a Christian perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter who you are, you can have a conversation.
Yeah.
And to read how the Dalai Lama talks to Desmond Tutu and how Desmond Tutu talks to the Dalai Lama, and they still get along with each other, but they have different perspectives of life. But in the end, they're both trying to be better people every day.
Can you imagine the world if we all had the same perspectives?
Right.
I'd be a
I'd go crazy.
It'd be a boring
Un-
place.
Unbelievable. But what's amazing is like you said, they have different perspectives but same goal, right? And then they're very playful together. They're like the best of friends and they bust each other's chops all the time. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't suspect that, from either of them, but they get together and they throw little jabs at each other, you know what I mean, playfully and all that kind of stuff, and but they have a wonderful conversation, and so yeah, I'm excited to continue to dive into that some more for sure. I have a friend who is Buddhist. He's actually living in a monastery in Southern California as we speak, and he is actually going to be reading the book too, and so him and I are going to have discussions about it as well.
That'd be interesting to have that conversation.
Hmm. And he's now become a Don't Die Rusty fan as well. I got him on board, so.
I love hearing that one. So now we're in the Sloan, and then
John and Jules.
John and Jules. We talked a little bit about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what about Lacey? I mean,
Yep.
she is the most. I talked to her last night, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, and she is a go-getter. I mean,
Yes.
and she's roughly in your age group too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And she has, I mean, her life story to me is amazing, in the fact of what she's gone through, unlike most of us,
Mm-hmm.
and the strength that she has and the willpower. And like I said, I I told her last night she's an inspiration, because she it just keeps on fighting and fighting and fighting for what she believes in. And Sober Cowboy is her belief, and she is killing it.
I don't think she takes no for an answer.
Well, I don't think so either.
But it's interesting after I listened to that to talk to other people and kind of take a step back and say, you know what, there is a similarity here. And yeah, you might have gone through something similar that she did. And so there's a lot more people out there that I think she is starting to reach and starting to say, you know what, this is a normal thing. Let's make it even more normal. And I like to believe that our generation is one that's okay with change with some things. We're not everyone, but we kind of like to look at our different perspectives and say, okay, this is a new normal. Like, we are okay with making a new normal compared to what we've been living in the last 20 years. So for her to step out there and say, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to put in the time, put in the efforts, lose sleep, but it's going to be worth it in the long run to make the world a better place. Like, that is incredible to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she she just, I mean, she struck me in that I mean, I'm not a big drinker anyway, but like there's there's I just haven't been doing it lately. It's like she affected me in that aspect that, you know what? I mean, uh, I probably don't need any more sober Octobers or NAMAs or no January. I just saw some, I think it was a British movie star. He had drank over the holidays and he said, you know what? I need to know that I don't have a problem. And he said, I'm going to do, what is it, no alcohol January or whatever. And he said, I got to the end of January and I thought, I'm still thinking about it. I'm still thinking about it. So do I have a problem? I'm going to go into February. And he says, I still was thinking about it. And he actually kept on going because he says, if I'm thinking about what I want to do with the alcohol, then I have a problem. And now I think he is 6 months in and he's not, he doesn't want to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And I see more and more of that in social media and in the society now that is, I'm not knocking anybody that does, but I want to wake up in the morning and see the sunrise. I want to wake without a hangover. I want to wake up and enjoy life without. I mean, I'm not going to put meth in my body. Why would I'm not? I just don't want to put any poison in my body.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how she's affected me.
Yeah, and I to like what you're saying too. Even I feel like some people may have the argument to what you just said, like, oh well, I just have a couple drinks a night. I don't wake up in the mornings hungover, so I don't have to worry about that. But I've noticed that, when Susan and I did 60 days earlier on this year, and then we did NA May, and I noticed even if I just have a beer, it sacks my motivation. It really does. Like, it doesn't take much for me to, all of a sudden I'm taking in all those carbs, and my body goes through systemic inflammation, and I crash, and I don't want to do anything. I just want to lay around and watch TV or go to bed. You know what I mean? So, so even in that respect, you know what I mean? I think, and to your point, I'm also not trying to knock anybody or anything like that. Like, I still like to, over the 4th of July weekend, we had some drinks and all that kind of stuff. But it's one of those things now where it's like, if I am going to do that, like that's what I'm going to do. But if I have stuff that I got to get done, if I got some things that need to get taken care of, I got to make sure that I'm conscious about that. And then to your point, it's harder to wake up in the morning. I don't sleep as good at night, all those different factors.
Yep.
So.
Yep. So no, and so I have to say thank you, Lacey, for affecting me in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then we did Matt Stutzman, the armless archer.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mr. Stutzman.
And he's heading to Paris here at the end of if not, well, actually, I think he's heading over there, getting ready to head over there to be in the Olympics and Paralympics. And he, how would you like? I mean, I can see this. I probably would have done this to your mom, but when Matt got on the bull and his brother tied that shirt sleeve to the bull and then gave it a hot shot and started bucking.
I can see that 100%.
That episode was so funny. I was laughing the whole time.
Well, the cool thing about Matt is he's real because he knows that he's getting stared at. That's why he told us that, in the episode, that's why he thinks he can handle the pressure because everybody's been looking at him for his whole life.
I think he does a good job of defying the odds. Like, yep, you can judge me, you can say and do what you want, but that's fine. Like, I'm just going to keep doing what I want to do, and I'm going to love every second of it, and I'll laugh with you if I have to. And I think he has such a positive attitude about life, and it's just he's excited to live. He's excited to wake up every morning, and I think that's a great reminder to us to sit back and say, okay, am I waking up happy? Am I waking up grateful that I get to see another day? Or is it just, oh, I have to go to work, or oh, I have to go do this? And so looking at your perspective of how are you viewing life? Because it could be a lot worse than what you have, and just be grateful for what you have.
Absolutely. And yeah, his, just his personality, like the way that the time that I've spent with him in person, he's really quickly, like like if you go out in public or anything like that, just like you said, Rick, he can turn those smiles and that laughter from people like pointing the finger and maybe making fun of him, and he can turn it in a way where it's more like people are laughing with him because he will really quickly flip the switch and do something that just cracks you up. He'll tell a joke or he'll tell something that lightens the mood, and then all of a sudden people are just like, "Oh wow," you know what I mean? Like once he reveals like who he is and his personality, like people flip the switch in a hurry. It's really fun to watch. It's really cool to see people interact with him, and to see especially like when around kids and stuff like that, like he makes everybody laugh, and it's not in a pointing a finger at him way. It's more like this is a really great funny guy.
Those are the people you want in your life.
They are,
Hmm.
and if we can be that way, that's if we can learn from that and not take ourselves so serious,
Yeah.
that that is one of those things that'll influence the world too. I mean, we're influent. We don't know. I mean, we know. Ricky and I know a little bit because we've been DM'd and we've been talked to. But even if you help that one person, maybe you'll help two, and if they help two, then you might have four, and things keep adding up. It's like, I mean, you want to save a penny, and then you go 2 pennies, and you go 4 pennies, and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to still be making. In the end, you're going to be making money, and
Hmm.
um, so you don't know who we influence, and actually, Matt, with that perspective, influences a lot of people.
Hmm.
So, and then we did the Seven Peaks, and I think if people followed along on that, the whole journey part. I mean, Ricky, Ricky, I don't know if you knew what you were getting into there in some
Hmm.
aspects, and
I've learned with Rick, you never know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. 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 No, it was amazing. It was, yeah. We joked about it. We talked about it, and like many things, I have great intentions. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna start working out and start practicing and doing all that, getting in hiking and doing all that stuff from the sedentary winter, right? And so I did do a little bit, but going into it, I did not feel as prepared as I probably should have been. And yeah, it was most certainly hard, and even just the challenges of uh working together. So it was interesting because of the way that, when we were at the Total Archery Challenge, John Barklow did a presentation, and it was just about like not only taking care of yourself but taking care of your partner too. Like when you're on hunting trips and stuff like that. And that kind of hit me too, where I felt like there was times where I'm like, man, I maybe I should have. Maybe I should have had Rick's back a little bit more in some of those spots, and maybe it would have helped, push you through better. Where I was more like in this mindset of being motivational instead of being more supportive. So I was just like, oh, maybe I should have done that differently or whatever. But either way, yeah, it was most certainly a wild challenge. It tested our friendship for a little bit there, and and those are the kinds of things that we gotta go through, right? To like really understand who we are and understand who your friends are, and I feel like it just builds on those relationships stronger. And so, yeah, I wouldn't take it. You know, I think it was amazing, and I look forward to doing many more challenges with you, Rick. So that was a really good time.
Yeah, those hard things make you stronger. Somehow, in the heat
Mm-hmm.
of the moment, you're really not thinking so much. But even 3 days after, you're like, wow, I did that. I can be proud of myself. And I think we all need to have more of those moments where you can say, you know what, I'm proud of myself for doing this. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of saying, you know what, I'm proud of you, I'm proud of you, you need to be proud of yourself. And so to do those hard things and be able to step back and say that is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Y-
Yeah.
Yeah, because I wasn't very happy when there was a pit in my stomach and I was ready to throw up, and I got
Yeah.
Ricky video, and he was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, we got a
Yeah.
long ways to go yet." I mean, you know what? I have never, I like you said, 2 or 3 days later, even more 2 to 3 days later, uh, I don't envy Ricky for driving home,
Mm-hmm.
but 2 to 3 days later, I realized that I've never been empty in my whole life. I've never been, I'm talking physically empty. I'm never, like, I was dehydrated. I had thrown up, I mean, bile. It amazed me how our bodies use what we put into it as quickly as it thinks we need it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've all been sick. Ricky and I talked about this. We've all been sick and said, I ate that yesterday. You know what I mean? Kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing. But there was nothing in my stomach. And nobody's ever seen me like that. And Ricky thought I think they thought I was joking when I was puking over the edge there. But,
I
you know,
did.
but it was just one, I've never ever been to that point in my whole life. And if you don't go to those points and know where you've been, you never know if you can get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And I really actually, Ricky, I mean, you talk about leaving. You guys took off. We were all separated, but I really think that we all needed to be in our own mindset because we'd been together for 24 hours,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we're all separated and we're all in a different mindset. And like, I think we come out and we have to look within ourselves, and I think that's was a good thing. You came out, you told Cindy we were coming. i've never I've never felt so, I don't know, I was there's something that happened in myself when Cindy said I'm proud of you,
Mm-hmm.
because there's not a lot of people that know what we did. And I know there's people that do ultra marathons, and I know people doing other things, but we aren't professional athletes and we don't train for this. And you know what? How many other people set up challenges to go do on their own? I mean,
Yeah.
like this,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Sierra Sierra came out, and you did the 100. Did you do any before then too? Or was it just
I
the
think I did
last
one
one?
before it.
Yeah, so she was out here when I was on my 100th climb, when I did my Crow Peak 100. You know, these, you get to, it's fun to have people that will understand the accomplishments that, you have to climb Crow Peak to understand what you did.
Yeah.
We can talk about this stuff but you don't know until you do
Mm-hmm.
what you go through.
Yeah.
So I think what we did in that challenge of the 7 peaks was very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's a great reminder that, like you said, all three of you broke up and it was an okay thing to have happen because you guys were all going through it, but it was in different ways. I mean, in your
Mm-hmm.
head, some of you might have been saying, okay, just right foot, left foot, just one in front of the other. And someone else might have been telling themselves and trying to distract themselves on their to-do list for tomorrow to just try and focus on something else. So to have those people that you're like, you're going through this together, but you can also do it in your own way, and to have someone support you and be like, you know what, you just got to do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, in retrospect too, and thank you for saying that, Rick. And I, you said multiple times, you're like, just go, like, just go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, okay, that's either I'm like my farts stink or I'm really annoying. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna go. But yeah, I mean, I'd stop at a point where I felt like, okay, it's like I want to wait up. I want to do this. I do want to do it together, you know. But yeah, it was amazing. It was super fun.
Well, I think I mean, when we got to when we're climbing off a Harney Peak, just go, because I think we all just need to be in our own mind and we have a different thought process. I mean, I'm I understand the cheering part, or the you got this kind of cheering part, but there's times when I was empty, and when I was is like, I don't want to say what I was thinking, because then it would be get an explicit attitude here. I mean, a rating. But I'm in my mind going, and it's in a lot. There's we could be MFing, or we could, what I'm just saying
Yeah.
this stuff. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
and it's in my head. Like, I'm telling myself to do this. Like,
Mhm.
you know, you don't know me, son. Who's going to carry the boat?
Yeah.
Who's
Yeah.
going to carry your logs?
Mhm.
Those are in my head. And we have these memories now, and we know what we can do, and that's the positive part about that stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's really good to see, it's that whole saying, right? Like if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't get me at my best, you know. And so even if you had thrown out some MFers or whatever what it was going through your head, know too that I was also mindful of just like we're hurting, and I didn't know exactly what you were going through, until later. And but even in that moment, it's just like, yeah, it's not easy. Like this is not, you know, that last, 8 miles we did was like hot, and I was getting sunburnt, and you couldn't get out of the sun. It didn't matter where it was like the sun was just baking us, And then when you're at your complete and total wits end, now we've got this vein we have to climb up, and it's
I
like,
know.
and I'm like, oh man, I'm just praying for like smooth sailing the rest of the way. And then you've got a mile that's downhill, and then you got another half mile that's uphill, and then you're going back downhill again, and you're just like, why can't we just go downhill the whole way? But even in that
Exactly.
case, right, like downhill isn't always the best. It's hard on your knees, and so there's all that. So yeah, it was a good time, and I would do it again in a heartbeat.
I would too, and I think that it you do these hard things, and you do it with the people that you're trusting. I mean, you look at us, Ricky. We're trying to get Don't Die Rusty to be a successful thing. We're trying to get people to understand that we're trying to make this world a better place. And if you and I don't go through hard things together like this, and I wasn't throwing the MFR at you, I was throwing it at myself. Like I
Yeah,
was felt
yeah.
weak. I felt like I
Mhm.
was just. But I'm saying, if we don't go through this stuff, knowing, because I want to know that you can do it, and you need to know that I can do it, and you need to know that even though I'm puking or feeling like crap, my knees are wasted, and life is like going slow at that moment, because you want to get your ass out of there. You know what I mean? And you're
Mhm.
not walking fast enough in your. That's what I'm talking about myself. Is like,
Mhm.
I know I'm going to get out of here, but let's. I want to go more than a half a mile an hour here. You know what I mean? Kind of
Mhm.
thing. It
Mhm.
felt like, but
Yeah.
but no. If we don't go through those things, how are we going to make Don't Die Rusty successful?
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Absolutely. And I've done some adventures with some people who were acquaintances at the time, and they're still good people, but I wouldn't probably go on that adventure again with them. And so to me, again, it really does, it speaks volumes that what we did was 10 times more than some of those adventures I've gone on where I probably wouldn't do that with that person again. And we put ourselves through the ringer, and I would do it again. So I think that speaks volumes to the relationship and to what we have going on here.
And I would too, and we just need to think of something different to do now. So, yeah.
Maybe not as hard.
Well, yeah. Maybe in a car. so, so, and then after that, we talked about nostalgia and about how memories are great and this and that. And people, you need to listen to that one because that was more. It ended up. I don't know how we did it because we didn't really plan this, and it came out, and it was Father's Day weekend, and it was, and we got to share the memories with our parents and with other people too, and that was a great episode, I think, in that aspect.
Yeah, and the one thing that was interesting to me too is, having, so this is something that we talked about. It was in November of last year, so it was a conversation we had quite some time ago, and we call it the lost episode because it kind of came back up, and it ended up being a good one that we thought was worthy of launching. And then it wasn't too long after that, after we came back from Total Archery Challenge and stuff, and just, seeing how things are changing, with the relationships we have with other people because they're, they have kids in their lives now, and then there's, so the whole dynamic of the Total Archery Challenge has changed so much since back in the day when we first used to go, when it was Bowcast at the Bird. And so it was really interesting for me and you to have that conversation, like off the record, about how, just the nostalgia of that event and what it used to be and how things are changing. And so it was really kind of neat to have that conversation with you about that.
Yes, and it was interesting, and it is interesting to go back and talk about how we grew up to be who we are somewhat. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think it also is a good kind of perspective of how far you guys have come with this. Like the end of that video, when you guys were trying to figure out how to end your podcast, was totally worth listening to the whole thing. But to listen to that and then be like, look at how far they've come and the incredible people that you guys have talked to and just how it has all evolved and come even just from November. Like, that's crazy to me that so much has improved already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Well, we like to hear that for sure.
Yeah.
Because we don't, it's kind of like a kid. Like, you get to see your son grow, and Ricky gets to see his daughter grow. But unless you put lines on the wall, you really never know that they're growing.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't have a line on the wall and somebody says, you're improving from episode to episode to episode, we would never know because we don't see the growth. I think we're more comfortable and we have better conversations, and I'm doing less ums and ands and you know what I mean in that aspect. I've changed some vocabulary because I listen to these and I go, you dumb son of a gun sometimes. But I think our conversations are more fulfilling. I mean, I'm not saying I talked to somebody, I can't remember. I think it was I can't remember, but they said, we are lucky, and I admit we are, because they said, unlike other podcasts we aren't famous in the aspect that we aren't a pro athlete coming off and trying to do a podcast and we have all these contacts with pro athletes. We're lucky to have the relationships we have with the people we have, and for them to say, yes, we're going to have a conversation with you.
Mm-hmm. And I think those relationships just are what kind of build a person to also be who they are. Because if you have those negative relationships, you're going to be a negative person. that's just how it is. If you're going to have those positive relationships, you get to see the growth. You get to see all of the positive challenges and the changes that are happening in your life. And you have those people that are rooting for you and they're watching from you. They might not say it often enough. I don't think any of us says enough how proud we are of people, but it just goes to show that when you surround yourself with those people that are sitting in the back and they're just letting you succeed and they're there when you need them, then you have the right people in your life.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said, Rick, about the marks on the wall, and we got numbers. We can look at numbers and data and things of that nature. And in some cases, I'm like, okay, well, the numbers are numbers, right? Whatever. But it's the feedback that we get that is the most valuable out of anything, any number, any metric that comes through on this podcast. Number of downloads, number of likes, number of views, number of followers. Like, we don't have a lot of followers right now, but every single one of them is quality. Every single one of them believes in us. Every single one of them listens to us. And so we appreciate all of that, and we really want to hear what everybody thinks, good or bad. Let us know. Tell us any suggestions, any people you want us to have on the podcast. Anybody you think that would be a good guest, please let us know.
Exactly, and I think I've been working on a post to put on my morning post, and because I I see the people, and I don't care if you like Zach Bryan or not. I really don't. But here's my problem. My problem is when he was doing his videos on YouTube and being in the Navy, and people are cheering him on to be successful, and then he becomes major success, and now you want to knock him. The same people want to knock him down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't understand why you want to pick somebody up to knock him down. I'm cheering for him either way. I'm cheering for him. Do I personally like him? Yes, I do. I like his music, but it's amazing to watch a lot of the artists I like that are small. They're not like in. They don't have the big stadiums. But if they make it a success, why are they doing this? They want to be successful, and why? That's the same with us. Is what I'm saying is, I want to be successful. This isn't just a dream that we're dreaming and we want it to. I want it to come to fruition. This isn't. We want to affect the world, and the only way to affect the world is having grassroots people like you and other people out there to follow us. Because I don't think a bot can tell us what to do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we have good people. We're lucky enough to have good guests, actually great guests, and then we have great people that listen to this, and that's how we grow.
Quality over quantity always.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
So then then we got to talk to Dr. Ray Jensen.
Dr. Ray.
And isn't it? Here's the funny thing, because when he came on, he said, I don't know if I talk well. And it was like, we got done with that conversation, and I'm going, holy smokes, we need to do another one.
Yeah, I was like,
learned a lot.
Who's hosting this podcast? Was it me or was it Doc? Are you hosting this podcast now? 'Cause I'm pretty sure you're better at it than I am.
Because all the knowledge that he gave, the perspectives that he gave was, I mean, I have to say with myself, I'm not going to speak for Ricky, but his was well thought out, unlike most of my conversations are just go all over,
Yeah, I would assume that his profession probably plays a role in that. He's a very well educated individual, you know what I mean? So like there's not a word that really comes out that doesn't have strong meaning, or he's very articulate, and So yeah, it was really enjoyable to talk to him about that. I wish we would have had more time, but he's a doctor, so he was getting pinged. I think the whole time. He was like kept checking his watch, because he kept getting
Yeah.
messages and stuff. And so by the time we were done, he's like, "All right, sorry guys, I gotta hustle." So,
And
but that
and,
was
and
great.
but I think he'll be another guest. We'll have him on again for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
absolutely.
he has a lot to say,
Mhm.
and I think that was a wonderful conversation to have about all kinds of things, in what he does. He is truly the most honest doctor I know, and I'm kind of biased. I would assume yes, but uh, I like that he tells the truth. He's not just trying to get things out of you. And
Yeah.
besides that, he's an interesting person to be around. He's very smart, and
Hmm.
and I'm I'm just lucky that I met him on top of Crow Peak, and I'm lucky that he is the guy I trusted to go do my leg work. We'll say.
Hmm. Your leg work.
He really made me think about what I do and how 20, 30 years down the road, what I'm doing now is going to be affected then. And so, am I healthy enough? Am I walking enough? Am I being active and doing things for not even my mental state, but my physical state? So, when I am 50, 60 years old, then I can still go do all of the adventurous things versus sitting in a chair because my bones hurt. Like,
Hmm.
I refuse to be that person.
Yeah, that's
And,
amazing.
and we don't want to be that's a don't die rusty attitude there. If we don't want to be that person, and in that conversation, it got a little deeper into like the health part, and what we eat, and what we drink, and what we do um, with our bodies, and that's why I'm kind of on Rick Hanson. I'm going to lose 25 pounds to save my knees. Uh, board right now. I'm
Hmm.
really trying to take a little take a little pressure off my joints, especially my knee joints. I mean, because I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing, and I admit, like Ricky was talking too up at TAC. My knees I were messed up. I get shots in them about every 5 to 6 months to keep them from hurting as bad as they do, and I'll be
Hmm.
honest with that. But um, I, I was in a bad mood because we'd just done the Seven Peaks. I went to the next week. I went to Big Sky. The next week I'm at Terry Peak, and I'm beating the crap out of my knees on steep mountain descents, most more or
Hmm.
less, and I'm just I think it my quality of sleep was crappy. Of course you're traveling and it's crappy food because you just eat crappily
Mhm.
in
Hmm.
that aspect, and I was that just was making me in a bad mood, and just it's one of those things that you learn now. Like you listen to that episode, and you learn, you know what? Maybe I should eat a little better. Maybe I should lose a little weight. And he never said that in there, but maybe I should. For me personally, I want to take some stress off my joints. So that was a great episode.
Yep.
Hmm.
What you do today
Yeah.
affects tomorrow.
Yes.
Hmm.
And then we had a female Melissa.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Melissa is a
Melissa.
wonderful person.
She sounds like it.
And she also talks well, and she's done a lot of things in her life, and she adds to the independent nature of the podcast.
I like those independent women. She definitely in her episode, I didn't know anything about jujitsu, like at all. So for her to even explain opens up a totally different world of questioning, okay, what is this? Would I like doing this? Are there opportunities around? So it kind of makes you question your opportunities that you have right now. And we
Hmm.
live in very rural America, and there's not a lot of options that we're given, but even if you fall in love with something like that, like, can you bring that opportunity to the other kids in your area or the other adults or whatever, and can you be a positive impact in that way too?
Yeah, for sure. Like I did taekwondo for a long time when I was younger, and although they're different, they're similar in the respect that you know, it is so much of it is all about respect and discipline and you know, getting into routines and I mean, there when I would do belt tests, I would have to know like what my mom and dad and my sister's birthdays were, things like that, like getting you to really respect your family and all of that. And then pretty soon, all of a sudden, I had an aunt and uncle that were in there training with me, and then it's just a big whole family thing in there, So like, and I without a doubt believe that jujitsu is very similar, in both the physical and mental health side of things. So yeah, definitely, if it's something you're thinking about getting into, you can certainly benefit.
Yeah, and maybe we take that let me see, February in Minnesota, February in South Dakota, trip to St. Martin's.
Yeah, and,
That'd be,
and get hip thrown or something
Yeah.
yeah.
across the room.
Well, I think I told her she's probably going to choke me out or body slam me or something,
I'll video that one.
But she has so much focus. I mean, her archery is serious. I mean, when you
Yeah.
shoot with her, I'm not saying she's focused on what she needs to do to be the best shot, but when we're
Mm-hmm.
walking down the hill, we're having fun, and she's asking questions, we're asking questions, we're talking and having fun.
Hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
in the podcast episode, she said, like the focusing on the shot and this and that, you're in your own space, and that's where it is, and
Mm-hmm.
and we've been lucky to meet these people that are really truly good people. We talked about Kyle earlier, so I'm not going to rehash that one because we talked about that earlier. But to sum up all and recap our last 10 guests, I mean, we just keep on getting luckier and luckier. And now you're here, and maybe we'll have you on again.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think I like your perspective.
Well, thank you.
You could be the
Yeah.
guest, come on every once in a while and give us your perspective of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I, 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 I am humbled by the people that reach out to us. I'm humbled by the guests that say yes, because you don't have to talk to us. But everybody has a story, and if everybody can touch a heart or a string in somebody's brain space or soul or body, that's what we're trying to do. And for you, I mean, you drove out here to come out and sit with me because I really didn't want to. I didn't want us to be all three on a screen for this episode anyway. Maybe now that Ricky knows you a little bit, and maybe we can do uh, a remote one if we wanted to have a discussion about stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
we are lucky for our guests and our audience too, and I just want to say thank you to you coming out. I'm thank you. I thank you for getting the word out and believing that what we're doing is good.
Well, I think for everyone to say yes and say, yep, I want to talk to you guys, it just goes to show that you're making that positive impact, and those people that you're talking to, that they're going to go out tomorrow and try and be better than they were today because they have that personality. They want to build those relationships with positive people like you guys and show the world that there is so much good if you just look for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And yeah, I just want to say, thank you to everybody who's been following along. It's been an absolute blast. It's so fun to watch this thing grow. I mean, literally from the ground up. And again, we like Rick said, we were blessed enough to have a lineup of people and have met a lot of people over the years to be able to start with a lineup, but it's just branching off into so many different directions, and it's just been a ton of fun. Just hearing from everybody. And, Sierra, thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate that. I always see you, sharing to your story. And I love those posts when people do that, when they like take a picture of of the podcast up on their screen in their car, and post that. I don't know why. This is a really cool thing, just knowing that people are out there, they're listening, they're supporting us. We know how these episodes impact us, so then we also know how it impacts everybody else, and that's really what this is all about. The goal is just to help enrich people's lives, and you do you, and we just hope that we can help get you off the couch in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and when you talk about the screenshot of their on their radio. It feels like I'm watching the old movies about country singers, and they hear their first song on the radio, and we get to see you put that screenshot on, like, oh yeah, somebody's listening to us. But
yeah, exactly.
but we have more great guests coming up that hopefully will affect your lives as much as the previous ones have, and we're maybe have some of the repeat guests on. And but I know we're getting to the end here, Ricky. So I'm going to ask Sierra, what's the good life to Sierra?
I thought about this the whole ride out because I was like, he's going to ask it. Lately, I've really just been trying to let God take control of my life and show me the good in every single day, and saying, you know what, we had these positive things happen today, and just really looking on the brighter side of things. Because if I let myself, or anyone else lets themselves, look at those negative things, that's the road you go down. And so living the good life of looking at the world in a positive perspective and spending time with the people that love you and support you and you would do anything for, day in and day out, like, that is what I believe is the good life, and what I think everyone should strive to do.
That's great.
Well, that is great.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we talked about the healing part in Dr. Jensen's part too, and he was talking about the the negativity that comes out that will keep you from healing, more or less, if I remember correctly. And I love hearing that. You got to stay positive, even if you find that one positive thing and 5 negative things happen to you that day. It's something.
There's something there.
Something positive still happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, you have anything else, Ricky?
Yeah, no, I think that's about it. I think, I think we rambled long enough. We can let the guests go and go back to doing whatever it was they were doing. Maybe not dying rusty.
Well, we're going to be up in the morning, and we're going to be on a little walk the morning walk, and maybe we'll post a little of that, and
Cool.
it like I said, we're lucky to have the people that follow us, and we're lucky to have the hardships, and I'm talking about the 7 peaks. If you don't go through the hardships, you aren't going to see the good things, and we're just lucky to bring good stuff to people. And Ricky and I are trying to, like I said, make this a world a better place, make this Don't Die Rusty a success, and with everybody's help and hope and listening, and hopefully we're an inspiration, we can do that.
Well, I think as one of your listeners, I think your listeners would like to say thank you for even taking a step to try and make the world a better place, because so many people, I feel like they want to, but they just don't take the leap of faith to do it. And so thank you guys for doing something like this. I think the world needs it.
Appreciate that. Big time.
Because actually, Ricky took a leap of faith with me, knowing that the arrow is never fletched with red.
Yes, indeed.
So anyway, I guess we're about to the end of this thing. So I'll say, well, don't die, Rusty fans. Thank you for listening and keep chasing your dreams and inspiring the world. And thank you for being you. And of course, don't die, Rusty.
Thank you, Don't Die Rusty Nation, so much.